Hey guys, it's Monday, March 7th, 2022. I'm Andrew from 510 Books, 510 Books on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook. And I'm in my bookstore, well, my warehouse / bookstore. And I did a lot today, but I won't dive into that. Maybe I'll talk about that tomorrow. But I did a lot today, so I'm pretty tired. But I'm still going to head to the gym to work out. So I wanted to talk about, someone asked if I could make a video about how much a bookseller could make online, specifically online, after a couple years, working for a couple years. So basically my assumption is just trying to understand an online bookseller and how much you could potentially make after you really get into it for, let's say, 2 or 3 years going at it. I mean, he didn't say full-time or part-time, but I'm assuming full-time. It's hard to just jump into this full-time unless you have a certain amount of time to build it up. So I'm mostly going to talk about FBA, but I will also talk about merchant fulfilled and eBay. So this is really this is kind of an impossible question to answer because there's so many factors. There's so many factors. It really, you know, your success at reselling books online depends on so much. For instance, you know, where do you live? If you live in a more rural area or a low populated area and big cities are not nearby, then you're not going to be able to find lots and lots of sources, probably not going to be able to find lots of sources within comfortable driving distance, especially when you're first starting out and you're trying to figure out your sources. However, if you live in an area like I live in, you know, if you live in a big metropolitan area, or let's say an area with at least hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions, within, you know, 10, 20 miles of you, then it's pretty easy to find books. Of course, there's other people looking for books in the same area because there's a lot of people that live there. So the chances are that other people are looking just like you. But I didn't run into a problem when I was only reselling on Amazon FBA before eBay and only doing books. I didn't have a problem finding enough books to send in and build up a significant inventory. Just so you know, when I was doing FBA, I was consistently able to have, in the first couple of years, an inventory over 1,000, and then for a while I had it over 2,000. I had as many as 2,700 books in my FBA inventory, which, depending on who you are, might not seem like a lot, or it might seem like a ton if you're brand new or if you're keeping a low inventory, etc. But that was 6 to 8 years ago, and things have changed somewhat, and things have not changed either in some ways as well. But anyway, so just so you know that I have done the full-time. I mean, I had kids. Well, I had my daughter who I was taking care of as well, and I was easing into that. So it wasn't truly full-time in the sense of, like, you know, working 8 hours a day, but because I had to take care of her and all that kind of stuff. But it was as close to full-time as I could do it. So anyway, enough of that. But basically there's so many factors. You know, where do you live? How much time do you have to put into it? If you have a lot of time to put into it, let's say, I don't know, you are in a position where you don't have to make that much money, or you have savings that you're living off of, I don't know. Or if you're doing it part-time, you're working a full-time job or even a part-time job, and you're able to put in, let's say, 20 hours a week into it. Even with 20 hours a week, I'm saying really going at it for 20 hours. And I'm including sourcing, shipping, and anything else involved, such as, you know, if you're going to reprice manually, you're going to dispose of items, just trying to find new sources, driving around. Well, that's part of sourcing, but all of that, you know, anything you have to deal with customers or Amazon, including all of that in 20 hours. But let's say you can, you know, source 15 of those hours, spend the other 5 hours shipping and other things you have to do related to the business. I think that should be plenty of time to find a lot of books. This is assuming, though, of course, that you live in an area where you can find enough books. So I live in an area where I can just throw a rock and hit a thrift store. It's not that many thrift stores, but it kind of are. There kind of are a lot. I mean, talking like dozens of thrift stores. Oh, if I go far, I mean, I was thinking even like 5 to 10 miles, but if I go like 20 miles out, lots and lots and lots of thrift stores. Not all thrift stores are the same. And I'm only talking about thrift stores. There's lots of other sources, but just thrift stores alone, you can live off of if you have a lot of them. And if you are consistent about going out to those thrift stores. Now, when I first started, I didn't talk to managers. I didn't get into the back room to try to scan books that never saw the light of day or never got out, or that kind of stuff. If you do that, you'll do even better at building those relationships. Trust me, even better than I did. But so it's really tough to say how much you can make after a couple of years. I can't give a definitive answer because it depends on where you live, depends on how much time you have, depends on how hard you go at it, right? Those 20 hours, are you really scanning a lot of books? Also, are you going to dabble in merchant fulfilled? Are you going to dabble in eBay? Because if you dabble in both of those, then you can make even more money, especially if you focus on high dollar books. If you say, I'm not going to put a book on eBay that I feel I can sell for less than, let's say, $30. So then you have a high average sale price. So you only, when you come across those books, you buy them and then put them on eBay and build up that inventory. You could say the same thing for merchant fulfilled. I'm only going to list books, let's sell for $20, $25, whatever it is. Just as an example, then you're not going to spend as much time on that stuff. You can focus more on FBA, which of course is quicker because you can just scan. Well, for merchant fulfilled, you can scan as well and look at the data. But once you ship it off, you're done. You don't have to worry about shipping stuff individually. So it's great in that way. So try not to lose my train of thought here. But yeah, so if you're able to really put in, let's say 20 hours a week, I think it's plenty of time to find a lot of books. Also on the weekends, if you're hitting up estate sales, garage and yard sales, as well as what else? Library book sales. If you do all 4 of those, thrift stores, library book sales, yard sales, and estate sales, you will find lots of books. Again, it depends also, how far you have to drive. If you have to drive an hour to find the books versus just driving like 10, 15, 20 minutes to get somewhere, then you're spending money on gas. You're spending more time driving there and back, all that stuff. But if you're finding great stuff in that hour drive, then it's worth it, right? So like I said, there's so many factors, but I would say this: set a goal of a certain amount of books per week that you ship into FBA. It could be 50, it could be 100, it could be 200, it could be 20 books. But do that, set that goal, make sure you hit it, and then over time, over the couple weeks, over the weeks and the months, you'll start to see the numbers come in terms of how your books are selling, what percentage of your books are selling, and how long are they taking to sell. Because if you're sending in 100 a week, 400 every month, every 4 weeks, that's a lot of books. It's a lot. If you can have a sell-through rate of 50% within a month, let's say, so you can sell 200 of those books, which is a high sell-through rate. Let's say you're finding great stuff, right? Then you're probably going to do really well. However, if your sell-through rate is 20%, it's going to take longer to sell those books, and some of them might not sell. And you'll still make money, but not as much as someone that has a higher sell-through rate, which, like I said, over time, your sell-through rate should get better, though, because you will learn what books to send in and what books to not send in. But just doing the math, for instance, if you send in 100 books a week for 6 months, and let's say you sold, of those 400 books a month, you sold, I mean, it's easy to do 100 books. Let's do that. 100 of those books sold in the first month. Let's say your average sale price. Again, what's your average sale price? If your average sale price is 25 versus 12, then you're going to make more profit and have a higher gross income and net income. But let's say it's $15. So then it would be, if you sell 100 books, it would be $1,500, right? Gross. But if you sold 200 books, it'd be $3,000. So, I can't give a definitive answer, but, I will say the more books you ship in, the more high quality books, and by high quality, I mean they sell fast, and they sell for a profit, the more sales you get, the more money you make. Can you do full time? Yeah, but also depends on, again, another factor, depends on how much money you need in your life. Do you only need a couple grand? Do you need $5,000? Like, you know, it depends on your situation. Do you have kids? Are you single? Do you live in an apartment? Do you live in a house? Do you have car payment? You know, all those things come into play. If you want to make 6 figures, then you've got to send in a heck of a lot more books, and find a lot of great sources, you know, and try to ramp it up. But you can definitely do that. I think after a couple of years, if you hone it, you pay attention to your sources. The lights are going out. You pay attention to the sources, and see what are your best sources, what are your best thrift stores, what are your best, I don't know, whatever sales you go to, library sales, and only go to those, for instance. Don't go to the other ones that don't tend to have anything. Then that's going to help you a lot as well. I would say definitely you could make, within a couple of years, you could be grossing within the first year. You can definitely gross like 50, 60 grand, but that's just gross. You know, there's going to be Amazon fees. There's going to be income tax you're going to have to pay, and you know, whatever's left. Oh, sorry. And then of course you're having to put out cost of goods. So you're having to pay for the inventory to send in. You know, what's left, right? After, let's say you make 50, 60 grand gross after the first year. I don't know, it depends. You could be left with 20 grand, you could be left with 30 grand. I mean, anybody that has a job that makes 60 grand, of course they're gonna get taxed. So they're not gonna get 60 grand. But anyway, so there's a lot of factors. And I will say, I don't have a definitive answer, but I will say that if you work at it, come on, this light. If you work at it, you can build up a significant income for sure. And if you dabble in merchant fulfilled, especially higher priced books and higher profit books, and you dabble in eBay, then you can make even more money. And there's plenty of people that do go big on eBay for books and go big on FBA and combine those two to make a significant income. But, you know, time is money. And if you have bad sources for books, you're not getting quality books, you might give up. You're just not going to potentially make that much money. So you got to really hustle for that stuff. Hopefully this helps a little bit. Other things too, you know, have a scanner. Oh, speaking of that, I need to get my scanner. Have your, have a scanner, have a scouting app. It could be Scout IQ, it could be Scoutly, whichever one it is. And, you know, get to know that data, understand it. If you're going to sell on merchant fulfilled, get to know that data, the difference between FBA and merchant fulfilled, and what makes sense, and eBay, and what books make sense on eBay. You know, you got to learn all that stuff. There's a learning curve. But after a couple years, I don't see why a person who's really working at it can't have sustainable full-time income. Now, of course, we haven't talked about things like health insurance, saving for retirement, all that stuff. That's a whole nother animal when you don't have a job and you're self-employed. But anyway, so just some things to consider, some ideas, and it really depends. It really depends on your situation. But definitely, if you go at it hard and you dedicate your time to it and learn it, like any business, you can make a significant income to support yourself, or at least be a significant side income that can become a big income over a couple of years. Probably people are going to ask, oh, but can you make 6 figures doing this? Yes. But again, you've got to know your business. You've got to really, really work at it and find quality books. All right, guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. I talk about everything that has to do with reselling books and media on Amazon, eBay, as well as in my local store. So definitely subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe. Take care.